Is it hard to believe that it's been 3 years since Dallas?
I mean, it's super hard to believe it's been 3 years, and we've had a lot of success since then. But the national championship, something that that is etched in history, it's etched in our hearts. And we tend to forget about it a little bit because of what we have going on in our daily lives and us trying to get back there. But it's always a super special moment when we're able to reminisce.
I'll just do with you what I did with Kayla, and I just kind of went through the tournament with her. Obviously, first round you guys cruise like everyone kind of expected, and it's interesting because when I look back on it, so many people they talk about Stanford, Quinnipiac, and the championship, but a lot of people don't talk about the second round against Arizona State, a tough one that you guys really had to fight your way out of. What do you remember about that game?
I remember us just being down and when you're down at home and expected to win, you a surge of pressure comes across you like, oh no, this really can't happen here. We're supposed to have the advantage. And I knew what type of team Arizona State was. Very physical. Um, they can get after you from a defensive standpoint. They had it going on from an offensive standpoint. But then I just remember us inserting Danye Clowney into the lineup because they had a big freshman point guard. She was tall, and we had so much trouble just disrupting her. So we put somebody much bigger on her, like Danye, who was probably as tall as she was, to just get underneath her and force her into some type of disruption and not let them get into their offense. I thought she was the spark that got us back in the game because she stole the ball and went in for an easy layup, and I think that's what got us going.
And Kayla was saying too, she doesn't. She was saying she doesn't know if you guys pull that out on a neutral court. The crowd was just humongous. That was one of those where being at Colonial Life really was the benefit in the end.
We don't, and I said that after the game. If it was anywhere else, they would have upended our run in the NCAA tournament. But we come to know and love those moments because our fans really do a great job in inserting the energy and the building was rocking. They only need an inch of excitement, an inch of a near steal and a made 3 pointer. Any little thing will get them going, and we surely needed them in that particular game.
And what did that game do for your team mentally, just going forward to kind of escape? Did it relax them at all?
I don't know if it relaxed us, but I think it just put us on edge. Like, we really, if we want to win this, we really have to do some things. Tighten up. That's one. Not dig ourselves in a hole that being on the road can't get you out of. So we knew from that point on, we really wouldn't have a home court advantage. And luckily for us, we did take care of that, and then we got sent all the way, all the way to Stockton, California. Which, to be quite honest, when we reflect on it, and during that time, we did have the easiest path to the Final Four. And not to say that the teams were, not good and competitive. It's just that we didn't have as much firepower as far as, top 10, top 5 teams in the country. And fortunately for us, um, Florida State actually ended up beating Oregon State, which would have been a home court advantage for Oregon State had we ended up playing them.
And then speaking of Stockton, Quinnipiac, a lot of people forget too that a lot of people were predicting them to win, to beat you guys. And Kayla was saying that she was so tired of seeing the same clips of Quinnipiac over and over and over, and that she felt it was kind of disrespectful. Because you guys were the SEC tournament champions, you were number one seed, and a lot of people were acting like that. That it wouldn't be surprising if you lost.
I think Gino Ariema probably got people started. with that because I think he came out and had a Quinnipiac T-shirt on at one of his press conferences, and I think that kind of stirred things up internally for us. We didn't talk about it; we saw it, and we just use it as motivation to prepare and to get ready for a very good Quinnipiac team. But that was the Arizona State game was the thing that put us on edge and notice. And then when people started really disrespecting us in that regard, it also put us on notice. So it just created us being able to focus in a little bit more and get a little bit tighter and create an incredible chemistry that honestly we didn't have that 6 weeks before. We probably didn't have that a month before that moment. But when all of these things start happening, um, and some of it was self-created adversity. Some of it was adversity that other people brought into our circle, as far as being disrespected and not being the favorites to win that particular game.
And then you drop 100 on them. You beat Florida State. How did you feel about your team after they going into the Final Four with the way they were playing out of that regional?
Um, I felt really good. I felt great because in Stockton, it was probably the perfect imperfect place to be, and I say that because we did nothing. Like our players were locked in the hotel for like almost a week, where we did nothing. We didn't go to the mall. They didn't walk outside. They did nothing but schoolwork. um, Maybe occasionally they would go outside in the in the hotel and sat outside in the sun for a little bit, but everything was really focused. And then once we won, I can remember us having a team meeting before we actually ended up leaving to go to Dallas, and we just had fun. I mean, we just talked, we had fun. Everybody was loose. Everybody was in a good place mentally and physically. And then, and we had so much belief in each other at that point that I really didn't care who we ended up playing. I just felt like we were destined to win.
And then you go against Stanford, obviously a very storied program. You're down 9 at half, and Kayla said that everyone was kind of tense, and then she said something like you saying we had a game plan and you guys aren't doing it. What's wrong with you? And she said something about because we're millennials, and that really loosened everybody up.
At Lucinda, I couldn't believe it. Like I'm not really a screamer at halftime or anything like that. I'm actually having like I can't understand. I was pleading for some type of understanding. Like, why can't we execute? Why can't we do the things that we prep to do? And then Kayla raises her hand like, because we're millenniums, and I'm like, that's it, Kay. That's it. Let's roll. And we all cracked up and went out on the court and took care of business.
And then you guys obviously come down from 9 at the half. You win that one. The next one is obviously a lot. The semifinal after you guys is when Mississippi State upset UConn. Where were you guys when that was going on? When Mississippi State caused the upset?
Well, the players watched half of it, and then I was actually really close to. I was close to UConn's bench on like press row, and when I couldn't believe it. I sat there and I'm like, I can't believe this what happened. And I was like, okay. It made it easier for us because we had just played Mississippi State in the SEC tournament. So the scouting was pretty much done. We were very familiar with them, and and I was happy for the SEC because it was an all SEC finals.
And then going into it, so since you had played obviously Mississippi State, did you feel very confident going into the championship?
I felt great. Like I felt great. We had like 1 day to prepare for Mississippi State, and we had a relaxed practice. Like we stretched. We had probably 30 minutes of preparation, and then we did yoga. because at that point, rest was equally as important as just focused in and make sure that we got our legs and our heads, and we were just physically ready to take advantage of the moment.
At what point did it click? We're gonna win this game, or did it not click until the buzzer sounded?
Um, I I felt we were going to win probably maybe with 3 minutes left in the game, and I didn't want to go there until I knew we would secure the win, and I didn't want to smile because I didn't want to, although it was a great moment, it was a historical moment for us. I'm always trying to be respectful of our opponents. And I didn't want to smile, although I had to contain myself just from enjoying the moment and not take away from the agony of, being on the other side of winning.
For you too, there was so much symbolism because you were so close as a player to doing it, and then now you finally got to hold the trophy. What was that moment like for you? Was it emotional?
It
Sorry, I lost you for a sec. I think you're back. You're back.
all right. Yeah, I'm back. I don't know. It was either 17 or 27 years since I was able to compete for a national championship and win one. So, I mean, once the trophy once the trophy came into my sight line, I beeline to it, and it was before the actual ceremony. So I grabbed it, put it over my head, and kind of ran around the arena for a little bit just because I was incredibly happy for that moment. And I wanted to share it with my family, our fans, and everybody, just for them to get a closer look at the trophy.
And then there was obviously so much joy here in Columbia with Asia. You know, she had the prophecy of, I want to stay at South Carolina and win a national championship. It's one thing to say it, it's another to do it. And so, what was it like for you? Because we kind of watched her go from this high school phenom to a legit generational superstar.
Um, you know, I, I know Asia's been an All-American player, an All-American person. Um, um, I, I just don't think she even got the credit that she deserved to be able to stay at home, to go against the odds. You know, the odds were at the time that she was making a decision is to go to a place where you know that's been the Final Fours, that's won a national championship. So to go against those odds, to stay home and do it for her hometown, we don't celebrate her enough for what she's given this entire state, let alone the country. The country. If she's somewhere else at another story program, she would still be talked about. But for as much as breath that I have in me, Asia Wilson will always be remembered as one who stayed home, as one who kept her promise, and as one who delivered time and time again in every phase of her story career here at South Carolina.
And do you think it's interesting you say that? Because this year, one of the reasons I was so disappointed the tournament was canceled is because I felt it was the most depth we've seen in women's basketball in a long time. There were so many good teams. Do you think she kind of started this trend of, hey, I don't have to go to UConn or all of that to win a championship, and now other players are kind of following her lead and not necessarily picking the one where they feel they'll be guaranteed, a championship?
She was a huge part of breaking the cycle of doing a popular, decision of going somewhere that was more story than, staying at home. Parity in our game was real this particular year. I don't think it was talked about enough. I just don't think. I think our game grew, and it wasn't given the opportunity to grow nationally because of a narrative here or there. I just think there's so much more to our game, not just South Carolina, our game. our game. There were some incredible coaches who did a tremendous historical job with their programs. There were, incredible players. I mean, Ryan Howard had a great year. Kennedy Carter's always, tremendous. Ty Harris had a great year. Kiki, Herbert Harrigan. All of these players had great years, but yet we didn't hear about them enough. And I'll say this: when you talk about, or when you don't talk about what our team, what our players, and I'm going to talk South Carolina now. When you don't talk about Ty Harris and Kiki, Herbert Harrigan, you you lower their stock to go into a league. So I felt like it was our job, and maybe I tooted our horn too much, but never is too much. We had to make up for what the lack of exposure that our kids got all season long. I think I talked about Ty being not being on any mock drafts. After that, she's on every mock draft. So from here on out, I don't care what the national storyline is. I don't care what it is. South Carolina will be in the forefront if we have to make it ourselves. If I have to go on Instagram, IG, Twitter Live, all of that. And don't get me wrong, our local media, you guys do a tremendous job. I don't think there's another program across the country that is covered more than us here in South Carolina because of you. So I really thank you for keeping us in the forefront. Because if we can't do it at home, we definitely aren't going to get it nationally.
And my last question, I know you're busy, I know you got to go, but Kayla was saying she's getting all kinds of requests to for the 2017 team to play this 2020 team, but she said they're too old now, so she doesn't know if they could do it. What are the chances we get that matchup anytime in the future?
Well, I hope that the impact of COVID-19 ends very soon. And I hope that there are enough families and people that have been impacted by this. Enough is enough. But whenever we get back to some normalcy, I hope we can get as many players from both teams together under one roof to play a scrimmage. And if we do, we'll probably put it on some kind of YouTube or IG Live or Twitter, so everybody gets the chance to see what a special moment that is. And they're not old yet. That's just 3 years ago.
All right, thanks, Don. I appreciate you. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
This
Thank you.